every full-time RVer and pet parent knows that one of the hardest things about traveling with a pet is leaving them inside your home vehicle when you're running errands, when you're sightseeing, if you're going on a hike. I mean, it's really, really hard any time of the year, but especially when the weather gets really hot. So today I'm going to share with you everything that I've learned over 5.5 years on the road, most of that with a dog. There are a few simple tricks that I have learned that help keep it a lot cooler in here than you might think, to make sure my fur baby stays safe no matter what I'm doing living on the road. So stay tuned. Yeah, what do you think? Did that work? Did it work?
There ain't nobody gonna do it for you. Got to find your own.
Hey friendlies, I'm Carolyn and welcome back to my RV life. I've been living in an RV most of the time with a dog for about 5.5 years, so I have learned a thing or two about how to keep not only myself as comfortable as possible in all kinds of different weather scenarios along the way, but I've really learned how to maximize my dog's comfort while living in a vehicle, whether we're just sitting out here in the forest boondocking or whether we're in town running errands. And so today I'm going to share with you a few simple things that I have learned that you can do to make sure your pet stays cool, your fur baby stays cool on a hot day when you're out and about. But first, I want to thank Waggle for sponsoring this video. If you didn't see the video that I did about this device, I suggest you check it out. I'll put a link up here. This is the best pet monitoring device on the market for full-time RVers. So this little device right here runs on Verizon 4G. And a lot of you asked after the last video, does that mean I have to switch to Verizon? No. This little device here connects to Verizon Towers, which has the best service across the country, so that this always stays connected. It then sends the data to the app on your phone using whatever service you have. This device doesn't have to have its own Wi-Fi. You don't have to hook it up to your service. This has its own Verizon Wi-Fi built right in. So then this talks to the app on your phone and you don't need to do anything else. No Bluetooth or anything else. What this handy little device does, though, is it monitors the temperature, the humidity, the heat index, and even the power source within your RV when you're not here. So this will tell you what the temperature is, what the humidity is, what the heat index is. When it's plugged in, it'll even tell you if your RV loses power or if the battery is getting low. It'll let you know, so that you don't want this thing to run out of battery, because then it won't monitor the temperature in here. So it'll let you know if that happens. And it's rechargeable. So you can charge it by USB or by 110, and it's got a battery life of like 4 days. So while you're out and about, while you have to run in town to do your errands, or you want to do some sightseeing, or even if you want to go out to dinner, this is a must-have for every pet parent who lives in an RV, because it just gives such peace of mind. Knowing exactly what the environment is while your pet is alone inside your RV, it's a lifesaver. It literally is a lifesaver, and so much peace of mind. So if you want to check out the Waggle device, check out the link below in the video description. Make sure you enter promo code SADIE40 for 40% off. Okay, enter SADIE40, click the link in the video description, and you will get 40% off. All right, must have. So this definitely is one way to make sure your pet stays safe, and I talked about this, but I've got some simple tips of things that you can do when you're leaving your pet behind that can just make it cooler in here, so that you can feel better knowing that, whatever the temperature is outside, up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I can actually keep it cooler inside my RV than I do outside. And here are some things that you can do when you're living and traveling with a pet. Number one, you need to plan. If you know that a heat wave is coming, and that means being in tune a little bit with the weather, whatever weather app you want to use. And plan ahead. If you know that you're going to have 3 days of 100 degrees, don't wait until the middle of that to go do all your errands and all your shopping. So it's going to take a little pre-planning. Oh my gosh, starting earlier next week, it's going to be in the hundreds. I better go supply up now so that I don't have to leave my fur baby inside. You don't want to leave your fur baby inside when it's 100 degrees, but you want to maximize their comfort. So just plan ahead, go on the coolest day that you can. Time of day is also really important. I'm always, on days that I have to run errands, I'm always out early, but especially when it's hot, I'll be out of camp by 8 o'clock, sometimes 9 o'clock. I want to hit the stores, hit the things, the grocery stores, and all the things that I need to do as early as possible before it gets too hot. Like I said, up until 2, 3, no, actually 3 or 4 o'clock. I was purposely looking at it yesterday. It didn't get as hot or hotter in here as it was outside until late, 3, 4 o'clock, and that's in direct sun. So yeah, so plan ahead and go early in the day so that you're going during the coolest part of the day or late at night. I'm a morning person, so I like to get stuff in the morning, but if you want to go late at night, you can also do that, maybe even midnight. If you're a night owl, go run your errands at midnight. That'll be the coolest time you can go, right? Or actually, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning right before the sun comes up is usually the coolest. So planning ahead really helps. The other thing, easy, no-brainer, if you can, park in the shade. Either go to, if there are no trees where you're at, which oftentimes it's kind of hard, especially if you're in a big RV, to park under a tree, like in a parking lot of a grocery store. They don't have a lot of trees. And of course it depends on what time of day it is, how much shade you're going to get. But if you can park in the shade, sometimes that means not parking directly in the parking lot, maybe parking in a parking lot next door where you're getting shade from the building next door or the back of the grocery store. But if you can, park in the shade. The other tip is to make sure when you do park, the sun is not beating on the windshield. Okay, you don't want the sun to be beating on the windshield, which is going to magnify that heat and heat everything up super fast. What I do is I try to park so that the sun is on the back of my rig. It's all white, it's all fiberglass, except for a window like this big. So if I can park where that's the most sun coming in, somewhere back there and not in the front, I know it's going to stay cooler in here. The other thing you can do is to cover up the windshield. Sadie likes to look out. She kind of sits there and waits for me to come back. But if the sun is beating, if you don't have a choice, cover up the windshield with Reflectix. That'll prevent the sun from beating in and magnifying the heat inside. When I'm sitting in one place, and I'll actually I'm starting to put it outside my window instead of inside, because if you're putting it inside, it's heating up the windshield and that's going to emanate inside. But if you put it outside the windshield, it prevents your windshield from getting hot. And anything that absorbs heat is going to hold on to that heat. It's kind of like think about like putting your oven on during the day. Even after you turn that oven off, it's going to be heating up the inside of your RV. Same with your windshield. Even long after the sun's not beating on it anymore, it's going to be hot and it's going to radiate, it's going to emanate, and it's going to heat up the inside of your RV. So anything that you can do to not heat it up to begin with is going to be better both for your pet and for you. And that's the other thing about living in an RV. This is fiberglass. My walls are fiberglass. They're not going to heat up like steel, like a car. A car is going to go from, 90 to 115 in a few minutes because it's all metal. It's going to absorb, it's going to attract and absorb and soak in all that heat, whereas I'm white, my vehicle is all white, it's fiberglass, so it's not going to absorb as much heat. That's why I'm able to keep it a couple degrees cooler in here up until late afternoon. And same in the morning. Partly is because when it's cooler at night, I absorb the cool air. I bring in purposely all the cool air, keep it as cool in here as possible. So when I wake up in the morning, it's cooler in here than it is outside for quite a while. The other thing is to use your fantastic fans. So I use my fantastic fans to suck air out of my RV. So it sucks the hot air out of my RV. And a trick that you, not only for keeping your pet safe, but for keeping you cool at night. I learned this when I lived in an apartment. The landlord taught me this in an apartment. We got a cool breeze every afternoon. So he put a fan in that window to suck the cool breeze in from that window, the direction from which the cool breeze came, and blew it into my apartment. And it really worked. So that's what I do inside my RV. For Sadie, when I'm leaving, whatever direction of my RV has the shade, the shady side, preferably the window by her is shaded, I can put the fantastic fan on, roll down the window a few inches so it's blowing the coolest air I can get right over her. Does that make sense? So your air on your shaded side is going to be cooler than the air on your sunny side. So you want to pull that air into your RV and directly over Sadie, your pet. It's going to keep your pet cooler. So that means your fantastic fan has to be on sucking the air out. And all other windows need to be closed, by the way, to do that. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if you close all your other windows, you're creating one vacuum, and that's the window right next to her, blowing the coolest air in. If you leave all your windows open, it's just going to be blowing air in all, both the warm air and the cool air, and it's not going to be, depending on where your fan is and your other windows, it's not going to be getting the biggest force coming over your dog. Does that make sense? Your fan is going to pull from the nearest source. So unless the window by your dog is the nearest source, she's not going to get the most impact from it. So also, that's another trick I've talked about in my video for staying cool in the winter. That's how I stay cool at night. I shut all my windows at night, except the one by my bed, and turn on a fantastic fan so it blows the cool air right over my bed and out the vent while I'm sleeping. And it doesn't work as well if all my windows are open. You might think I want all my windows to be open to bring in all that cool air, but no, it doesn't work as well to cool me because it pulls that cool air directly over me and Sadie. Okay, does that make sense? So that's a tip. Use your fantastic fan when you're not in the rig for your dog to pull the coolest air directly over your dog by leaving the window open. I also used to have a cigarette lighter fan and it broke. I want to get another one. I have this that I bought, which is a plug-in fan, but I used to have one. You can get them at truck stops mostly, because for truckers, they plug into the cigarette lighter. And I used to put that on her too, so I could blow that right over her, so she had that going too. So she's got the cooler coming in the window, she's got a fan coming in another direction. And yeah, the other thing is if your onboard generator does work, you can turn on your AC while you're gone. You can pull into a parking lot, turn on your generator, and run your air conditioning. I don't have that luxury because my onboard generator doesn't work. And if you want to hear all about that, I'll put links up here. I've tried to get it fixed. Yeah. Another must-have for any pet parent, especially if you live in an RV, is a cooling pad. So Sadie's had this for quite a while, and you don't have to put it in the freezer or the refrigerator or anything. It's just got a gel inside, so you can lay this down. She's got a bed, all her beds up there in the passenger seat. You can just lay this down underneath her. Sometimes when she's really hot, if she's been outside running around and she comes in and she's panting, I'll lay this on top of her because she lays on it sometimes, and I put treats on it. You have to train them, and you train them by putting treats on it, telling them to lay down and feeding them treats, and they learn, once you train them, they learn that, ooh, not only do I get treats when I lay here, but it feels good, so you might have to train them a little bit to lay on it. So call them over, lay this on the floor, make them stand on it, sit, treat them, make them lay down, and while they're laying down on it, just keep giving them treats so they associate laying on this with good things until the cool kicks in and they're like, oh, yes, that feels good. And another thing, kind of last case scenario for me, I'm not brave enough, I haven't actually done this yet, but I have one of these. and I just undid it, so I don't have the key on me. So I have a club. So worst case scenario, if you have to leave your dog in the RV and it's super hot outside, worst case scenario, you leave the engine running with the air conditioning on. You have to leave the keys in the ignition, though, to do that. And I don't really want to walk away from my home with the keys in the ignition. But if I had to, I would. And I bought this a while ago. If I'm in, depending on where I am, I use this fairly often, depending on where I'm going. If I just am nervous about leaving it, usually in cities, if I'm nervous about leaving it, I will go ahead and put the club on. Or if I'm going to leave it for long periods of time, or even at a trailhead. When I did that 3-4 day backpacking trip in Leadville, Colorado last year, I left it in a trailhead parking lot and I put this on. It's my home, you know? So that's worst case scenario. Get a club. It's super inexpensive. And I'm going to put links to a lot of the things that I'm talking about in the video description below the Waggle link. So I think I did get it on Amazon or maybe Walmart. Super, you know, they're not 100% secure. There was a phase, a fad, everybody was using them, and thieves were learning how to break into them. So they're not 100% safe, but like I said, in a pinch, you need to get something done. You have to leave your dog, leave the car air conditioning on with the keys in the ignition and the car running. But I think most of you know that it doesn't stay cold forever when it's just sitting. So the Waggle will come in handy if you need to do it for a while. You'll know when it starts heating up. But for short term, you know, this could be an option. Finally, the last tip I have for you for keeping your loved one, fur baby, comfortable while you're running errands is to put them in doggy daycare. I haven't done this yet. I had planned to do it, but then the pandemic and everything. But if you absolutely have to leave your dog, if you're going to be like a whole day or whatever, I think doggy daycare might be a great solution. Not only does it give you peace of mind, I guess, but it helps socialize the dog. You know that they'll be taken care of. They'll probably be in temperature control, and it's just probably good. For me, it's probably just good for your dog. You know, they get to play with other dogs and, you know, be with another human. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about leaving my dog behind with a stranger, too, and how healthy or how secure that really makes her feel, especially since we've never done it before. I was going to do it in Vegas when I had a bunch of doctor's appointments, but then my friend Christy came to help, so I didn't have to. But there's a website called rover.com, which I will probably use if I ever need to. And that's a bunch of individual people who have houses and homes and they love dogs. It's not like a doggy daycare business. So they're usually a little more lenient about all the immunizations. There were a couple things, I can't remember, that the formal ones required that I didn't have, but I think I went and got them. I think I got her all vaccinated up in case I did, but like kennel cough, dog influenza, that was the one. The companies, the really established ones, require you pretty much to have dog influenza, and I wasn't going to do that at first. I don't do the flu shot. Why would I give my dog the flu shot? And I think I ended up giving her the dog flu shot. So just be aware that if you are going to do formal business doggy daycare, they're going to require a lot of vaccinations. If you use rover.com, they're usually less stringent about what they require. You just have to be well behaved, and just the general, like rabies, I think, and stuff like that. Maybe kennel cough, but I doubt it. Okay, so those are my tips for keeping your fur baby as cool and as comfortable as possible inside your RV on days that are a little warmer than you would like them to be when you just have to get things done. Oh, one other thing. Check this out. A couple of you had asked about this. I really like this. So Waggle sends you this to hang on your rear view mirror. So if you're worried, if you're in a state that allows people to bust your window open if they see your dog, this might prevent that. It says pet temperature monitor installed. So if anybody is worried about your pet inside your RV, they'll see this and maybe they'll be more confident that you're not being an idiot and neglectful and leaving your dog to die in your car, because pet owners just want to be mean to their dogs. Sorry, a little sarcastic there. Just sometimes, you know. And you know, I see it all as a YouTuber. So tell me if you found those tips helpful. Was there anything there that you maybe learned that you hadn't heard of before, that you hadn't thought of before? Or do you have some tips that I didn't mention? Leave in your comments below what your tips are. And don't forget to check out your Waggle Pet Monitor device. Save 40% with Sadie40. Thank you all so much for being here. Love you guys. Love your pets. Take care of your pets. And I'll see you next time. In the meantime, be happy, be free, and be kind. Mwah. I'll see you soon.